The Independent Record, October 19th, 1894. Shot him from ambush. Perry Beal, perhaps fatally wounded by a highwayman in a narrow canyon. He and his wife were driving to Butte with a cleanup of gold, special to the Independent. Butte, October 18th. Perry Beal, son of Dr. Beale of this city, was shot and perhaps fatally wounded by a highwayman this morning about 6 miles southwest of Silverbow Junction. He was on his way to the city with his wife from German Gulch, bringing a lot of gold dust. Mr. and Mrs. Beale left their home in German Gulch about 9 o'clock and were bringing to town a cleanup amounting to several $1,000s in gold. About 5 miles from their home, the road goes through a rough, narrow canyon in which the timber and brush grew up close to the road. They were startled by a shot fired from the right side of the canyon. Almost immediately, a second shot was fired, which struck Mr. Beale in his right arm and side. He threw up his hands, exclaiming, "I am shot!" With remarkable presence of mind, Mrs. Beale took the reins and urged the horses forward, at the same time holding her husband. Glancing back, Mrs. Beale saw a man crouched behind some brush. He had a gunnysack pulled over his head and down below his waist, with holes out for the eyes. He had emptied both barrels of his gun and made no attempt to follow the team. Arriving at McClary's ranch, Mr. Beale was lifted out and cared for, and a messenger was sent to get officers and a physician. Mr. Beale had been shot with part of a load of large buckshot. One ball had entered his arm and another his side. The extent of the injury cannot yet be told. Officers and several ranchers and miners started after the highwaymen as soon as possible. The gunny sack was found near the scene of the attempted murder. From there, the highwayman was tracked to a cabin about 1/4 of a mile from Beale's place. The man who lives here is Frank Baudit. He was arrested on suspicion. He had worked for Beale all summer. He was the only man who knew that Beale was coming to town with the gold. Baudit denies all knowledge of the affair.